Hey guys, check this out. First of all, I missed you. You guys did so great for Black History Month. Y'all are just so amazing. But this week, we're gonna talk about your feelings, okay? Your feelings. Yes, I wanna know, how do you feel? We got a couple of stories in the Bible that goes through some emotions that some of y'all may feel. And we're gonna go through a few. But today's emotion is worry. Check this out.
Hi there, builder buddies! Listen up. Have I got a story for you? Whenever you don't know what to do with your feelings, the best thing to listen to is a story from God's Word. Do my builder buddies know what God's Word is?
The Bible!
That's right! Long ago, God's people kept doing the wrong things and not doing what God wanted them to do. So, for 7 years, God allowed their enemies to rule over them. God's people were so scared that they hid inside caves in the mountains. Can you show me how God's people looked when they were scared? Let me see you all make a scared face. You do look scared. Now, their enemies, the Midianites, were so mean and were destroying all the food that God's people planted. So finally, God's people prayed and asked God for help. On the count of 3, say help, like God's people did when they prayed. 1, 2, 3.
Help!
Good job, builders. Because God was with his people, he heard their prayers and sent an angel to a man named Gideon. Gideon was scared that the Midianites would come take away his food, so he was hiding as he prepared wheat. That's when the angel of the Lord appeared to him. The angel said to Gideon, "Mighty warrior, the Lord is with you." Gideon did not feel very mighty. Remember, he was hiding because he was scared the enemy would come take his food. So Gideon asked the angel why God's people were having so many troubles. The angel told Gideon that the Lord would give him the strength to save Israel, but Gideon was still scared. So Gideon asked God to do something that would show that he was really going to help Gideon save the people. Gideon put a piece of wool on the ground outside his cave. Before Gideon went to sleep, he asked God to make the wool wet and the ground around it dry. If God did this, Gideon would know that God was with him, and he wouldn't be scared to do what God wanted him to do. So Gideon went to check the wool early the next morning. The ground was dry, and the wool was so wet that Gideon was able to squeeze so much water into a bowl. But Gideon was still feeling scared. So he asked God to do one more thing. He set out the wool again and asked God to make the wool dry and the ground wet. Builders, do you think God made the wool dry and the ground wet?
Yes!
You got it! The next morning, Gideon saw that the ground was wet and the wool was dry. Now Gideon was sure that God was with him and would give him the power to do what God wanted him to do. When Gideon was scared, God was with him. If you are feeling scared, you can pray and ask God to help you, because he is with you too. Thanks for listening. Here's one of my special tools to help you remember what you heard from God's Word today.
Okay. Yeah. Let's keep going. We're getting something good here. Yeah.
Hey everybody, listen up. Here's what God has to say.
Has to say about what?
Well, I was just about to tell you
Wait,
that...
is it good news or bad news? Like, good news as when we're having pancakes for dinner?
Pancakes? What are you even talking about?
Oh no! Is it bad news? As in velociraptors are prowling around downtown with laser beams coming from their eyes and they're stealing everyone's pants? So many pants! It's got me so worried.
Let me stop you right there. That's what our story is about.
About pants?
Ha ha, not pants. Worrying. There are so many things we can worry about, and God has something to say about it. So let's jump into our story about Gideon.
Gideon, my main man. But wait, what did he have to worry about?
Great question, and great place to start. So, Gideon was an Israelite. The Israelites were God's chosen people, but they started to do some really bad things that upset him.
Oh, like cheating on tests and staying up past their bedtimes? That's like bad.
Oh, even really badder than that. They started to disobey God, so he let a mean group of people, the Midianites, rule over them. For years, they would attack the Israelites and destroy their crops.
Oh man, bullies who take your lunch money? Definitely lots to worry about.
Oh yeah, and this went on forever. Finally, the Israelites shouted out to God, asking for his help.
Time to throw up the bat signal.
Even though the Israelites had started worshiping false gods, the one true God heard their cries. He had an idea and was about to come through for them big time.
He was going to give them a shrink ray gun so they could turn the Midianites into little baby ants. Now that's an idea.
Oh, it's an idea, all right. And that's where Gideon comes back into the picture. Gideon, who was hiding while separating the wheat they used for bread, was worried that if the Midianites knew he had food, they would take it. That's when God sent an angel who said to Gideon,
"Mighty warrior, God is with you."
Gideon did not feel like God was with them and asked the angel about all the bad things that were happening. That's when God himself spoke to Gideon. He said, "You are strong. Go and save Israel from the power of Midian. I am sending you."
Well, I guess it doesn't get much more clear than that, right?
Well, you'd think so, but Gideon was still worried. He wondered why on earth God would choose him to go save everyone. It's not like he came from a strong family. Gideon didn't feel important at all. God reassured Gideon that he would be with him, but Gideon needed a sign. So he asked God to stick around for a minute while he prepared an offering.
I'm sure God didn't mind waiting since he's got all the time in the world.
Gideon whipped up some bread and goat stew, brought it back, and placed it on a rock. That's when the angel touched it with a stick, and the whole thing went up in flames.
Flaming bread, and flaming stew, and flaming rocks.
There weren't any flaming rocks, but Gideon did make an altar there for God. And speaking of altars, that same night, Gideon snuck around.
Like a ninja dressed in all black, throwing ninja stars at the other altars, and slicing a pole in half using a samurai sword.
Gideon didn't have ninja stars or a samurai sword, but he did destroy the altar and pole his family had used for worshiping false gods.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Gideon did all this at night because he was afraid and worried that his family would be very angry with him. When the townspeople saw what Gideon had done, they wanted him to pay for it. But nothing bad happened to Gideon.
Sounds like that was a close call.
It sure was. A little while later, the Midianites started moving in for another attack, and it didn't take long for Gideon to start worrying again. He knew God had promised to use him to save Israel and all, but he needed another reminder.
What did Gideon have in mind? It's not like God could just shoot him a text.
Yeah, no cell phones, but Gideon did have an idea. You see, dew would form overnight and make the ground, as well as everything else around it, wet. So Gideon left a piece of wool on the ground overnight and asked God to make the wool wet from the dew, but leave the ground dry.
Wet wool, dry ground, check.
Sure enough, God did just that. But Gideon still wasn't sure and asked God if he'd do just the opposite the next night.
Okay, so dry wool and wet ground. Got it.
When Gideon woke up the next morning, that's exactly what he found. The wool was dry, but the ground around it was covered in dew.
Please tell me Gideon trusted God this time.
Gideon was now confident that God wanted him to fight the Midianites. He knew that the Lord thought he was good enough to do the job. So Gideon decided to stop worrying, trust God, and do exactly what God wanted him to do.
So the next time we find ourselves worrying about anything,
we can trust God.
Man, you guys are so amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed. And we did service in under 10 minutes. And we learned something. So, man, I love you guys. As always, follow us, WildFyre_FSC, Instagram, and on TikTok. And see you guys later. But check this song out. What's wrong with y'all?
I got it, You've been my provider, and you're my rider. You've been with me through the fire. No worries, 'cause you got me. Giving up, not like me. No, the devil can't stop me, 'cause I'm walking in my victory. Say when as long as you're with me. Yeah, say this. You made a way. You made a way. Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. You keep on blessing. You keep on blessing me. Every day. Every day. Fight on my back. Fight on my back. You said it day. You said it day. That's why. That's why we give you all the glory. Let's go. Ain't nobody do me like you, Jesus. Ain't nobody do me like you, Jesus. Ain't nobody do me like you, Lord, yeah. Ain't nobody do me like you, Jesus. I give you glory, yeah. Yeah. I give you glory, I give you glory. I give you glory, I give you glory, yeah. I give you glory, I give you glory, yeah. I give you glory, I give you glory, yeah. You get the glory, you get the glory. I give you glory, I give you glory. It's already mine, it's already mine. Never alone, I can go to the throne. He's right beside me. Hold my hand in the valley. Lost but now you found me. Don't know where I would be. Don't know who I would be. Yeah. Came through when I need him. He's a rider. On my hands, you know he be fighting. I never had no one to stick beside me. Yeah. And when it's cold, I know you got that fire. You made a way. You made a way. Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. You keep on blessing. You keep on blessing me. Every day. Every day. Fight on my back. Fight on my back. You say the day. You say the day. That's why. That's why we give you all the glory.
Did y'all hear that? They killed that part.